Welcome to our spoiler discussion of Venom, and here we're going to go into more details of what we didn't talk about in our non-spoiler review. For those of you who are curious, you are welcome to check out our non-spoiler review of the movie if you haven't seen it yet. So, to start out at the beginning, this film, instead of focusing, like we were saying in our other review, it doesn't focus on Spider-Man as the origin story. Instead, what we deal with is that there's actually 4 symbiotes that come from outer space due to an expedition that happens.
Yeah.
Basically, in the beginning, we deal with these research team astronauts that go into space, and they discover that something goes wrong after they recover these. They get these like
there was like a comet that they discovered, and they like a sensor, like a heat signal thing. When upon, I guess what Drake explains is they noticed there was life forms on the comet, so they landed on the comet and got specimens, some of the symbiotes they were able to capture. And they were able to take them home. Unfortunately, like, I actually saw a movie last night that did the same exact story with starting off in space, and then it crashes and it goes down to Earth and spreads everywhere. Rampage did that.
Yeah.
So that's the second night in a row. I watched the space person die at the beginning, and then the shit falls to Earth.
Yeah, and basically when this lands on Earth, it ends up the symbiotes end up getting loose after an astronaut is recovered. He ends up getting into the ambulance, and this symbiote pretty much goes berserk, and then it basically, in a way, I was thinking in my head, like, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Jason Goes to Hell, the Final Friday. It's jumping in different people and stuff. I was like,
yeah.
I kind of like that because it gives it that kind of horror vibe.
And by the way, the symbiote is Riot that's doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it goes loose, and we eventually... and then we cut back to San Francisco this time. So instead of Eddie Brock living in New York, he's actually in San Francisco in this
Though
universe.
They do pay a homage, just in case it does go to the MCU, that he was working in New York where he's born and raised, but he got into a dilemma over a story and got blacklisted from working there. So he moved when he got with his wife, who's from San Francisco, and moved down there with her to where she has a law firm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this one deals with Eddie Brock, who's a reporter working on his own
own station,
station, and everything. And
but he gets promoted by another company.
Yeah.
Without that company, he doesn't get to do it. So.
And basically, there's an event that happens to where he ends up going to interview Carlton Drake over some stuff, and he believes that there were some stories around that he was basically killing people.
Yeah.
And that's what pretty much gets him fired after that happens.
Because Carl Drake's a powerful man in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a billionaire young guy who's pretty much... I mean, he's going around the world finding cures for diseases and this and that, and then he has a space program, and so he's a filthy rich guy. So it's one of those stories where he's the rich guy who's pretty much playing kind of like the mad scientist.
In a way, he kind of also reminds me a little bit of that guy from Ant-Man who was in the first one.
Yeah,
in a way. Yeah. But anyway, it deals after that event happens. Eddie Brock eventually gets fired, and he ends up losing his job, and his girlfriend Michelle Williams' character who dumps him, and then 6 months later he ends up basically being alcoholic after a while because he's all like sickly looking and things like that. And that's when we find out that at the research team that Drake has the symbiotes, he's basically using them. He's using test subjects for human testing.
Yeah, he's getting all the poor people, like people who are poor and have nothing else to go to and turn to. He's tricking them into thinking that there's money involved and stuff like that. And then the symbiotes are not... It's playing off to where these symbiotes, I guess... If they don't have the right host,
they die.
They die, and the symbiote dies. And basically, people start dying. And a reporter who was there, forgot the actress's name. I've seen her in plenty of shit before. I've seen her in many films before. But anyways, she ends up not liking what she's seeing, and she knows that there's one and only one person that can get the story out, and that's Eddie Brock.
Yeah, and that's where I was actually getting into a lot of where the story was going, because
this is where the story is good.
I liked that Eddie Brock was actually, because basically he's trying to get evidence on the guy and everything, but he can't do nothing about it.
Yeah.
And then basically she has to resort to going to him, and then after some stuff goes happen, Eddie ends up going to call her, and it ends up going into the station.
Well, at first
he's reluctant because he feels like
he's gave up on it
and everything like that,
and stuff like that, and he's like no go, and And then after pretty much knowing that, there ain't nothing left between him and his girlfriend, he's like, fuck it.
Yeah, because she's now with another guy and everything like that too. So he ends up going to the research station and all that. And basically that's when we see that he also runs into, we forgot to mention this earlier, there was a scene earlier when he goes on the street to the store. He saws this friend of hers that was like
She was kind of like a bum.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's like in a neighborhood where he knows everybody, like everybody knows each other's names.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how you doing, Eddie? I haven't seen you in a week or something.
Yeah.
Well, there's a bum, I guess you just say that he sees her daily. She sits in the same spot.
Because she gives him newspapers.
Well, you notice one time he walks by and she ain't sitting there, but all her stuff is sitting there.
Yeah.
And basically, she is in this facility, and she's the first one Venom gets inside.
Yeah, and then it resorts to her going, actually, well, Eddie tries to get her out and everything, but it ends up causing her to pretty much get gassed and all that, and then she breaks out, and then basically the symbiote that's possessed her and stuff, and then it leaves her and kills her, and then it goes inside Eddie.
Yeah.
And then we get the rest. That's when Venom pretty much takes apart him. As the rest of the film, in a way, kind of reminds me of like Evil Dead and American Werewolf in London. The way that basically inside his body, he's telling him what to do and stuff, and Eddie's like, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, this is where comedy is really good. I did enjoy the comedy. He's like, especially he's like, hey. He goes, go over here. And he's like, huh? What the fuck is that? And starts freaking out over it and stuff.
But not only that, but it gives him special abilities because after he leaves the research station, he's like climbing on like fucking trees and stuff. And
he's jumping over. He's jumping over 50-foot fences. And then he kicked over like a 10-inch fucking steel door like it wasn't nothing. He's looking like, what the fuck?
And if for those of you who have made comparisons, yes, this actually is compared with Upgrade because you've seen that movie. It's same kind of situation where once the symbiote in this movie like takes control of the person, it makes them be able to do things like that. Like Upgrade
Eddie
did.
Brock plays a guy who can't really fight or anything like that. So pretty much the symbiote's like, I'm taking control and doing all the fights, which is like the guy who looked just like him
in Upgrade.
Yeah, in Upgrade. That's the funniest thing now thinking about it. But you pretty much, then he goes to his apartment where he's pretty much kind of like scared. He doesn't know what's going on. Then, he has a scene where he's really freaking out. Because this is my favorite part of the movie, where he's not knowing what's going on. You have Venom like, I'm hungry.
Yeah, and he starts eating food all over the place and all that.
He jumps in this restaurant, starts acting weird, gets inside of a tank,
he's like,
and starts eating fucking people's chickens and food. And they're like, he's like, oh fuck, it's dead. This is the good part. This is where I'm really heavily entertained and still thinking the story still holds.
Yeah,
it ain't until later I feel like the story starts falling flat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It basically, it all leads to a point where Venom, because basically Drake's guys end up trying to go after Venom or Eddie Brock because they find out from the girl that we mentioned earlier. Yeah. She gives them the information, and then she ends up getting killed. Yeah. And then after that,
they want to go after Eddie Brock because he's actually the very first human symbiote
to actually be a host and to actually
do it successfully, because in the beginning of the film people were dying left and right. Nobody would it would always get rejected. The symbiote would always kill the host because it wasn't like what it wanted. So it pretty much, they were like, oh, bring him to me. And so you pretty much get that scene that's in a lot of the trailers where pretty much the soldiers are after Eddie Brock.
Yeah, and then he starts, kicking ass inside of his apartment building and all that, and then he escapes. And then we finally get our first glimpse at Venom, like, in full gear, when basically he's looking at this car in the mirror and stuff, and he sees, like, his suit's on. He's like, you're just in my head.
That's when you first see the face. The first actual from body to feet suit is whenever he raises up in that trailer with that bald dude. Yeah. And that was the part where Eddie Brock is escaping and Venom's helping him, and it's a pretty cool chase scene. Yeah. And then Eddie Brock wasn't paying attention. He kind of pulled a Fallout from Mission Impossible. Yeah. He hits the car, and then he rolls up, and he's all fucking tangled. His legs are snapped in half. His arms are broke and everything. And then Venom heals him, and then that's whenever he grabs that bald dude.
And he's like, arms, legs, pancreas, etc. He's like, so many things in so little time. And then he starts looking at him, and then the other dude shoots him, and then he fucking bites his head off, which they showed it right there. That scene was, it was cut away, but you could still see the after effect of it. and then basically the rest of the movie deals with Eddie having to adjust to Venom and all that and everything, and then his ex-girlfriend is learning about it too, and she tries to get him help and stuff, because there's actually a point later on in the movie where the doctor guy that she's with ends up trying to put him inside this room to get and then
MRI. They're thinking it's like a brain tumor or something, and then the MRIs. If you guys ever had one, they are noisy ass machines.
Yeah,
and
that's
Venom
also
can't stand noises,
and that's a big part of the comics too, because I like how they were able to retain that, especially. And so basically, long story short, it all leads up to them afterwards because Eddie realizes that the symbiote's actually killing him, and so in order to try to get help, Michelle Williams' character decides to actually get the symbiote off him. So he goes to the hospital, and they actually put put the thing in there to give it noise. Then he takes the symbiote off, and they trap it in that room. Yeah. All of a sudden, it ends up getting loose, and it ends up possessing that dog, which I thought was funny.
And then when we get to this part, we have pretty much they end up seeing Eddie Brock and able to put him down with the taser thing, and he goes, like a tranquilizer, and they think that he still has the symbiote and stuff inside him, but he don't. And we got Venom. Pretty much, he escapes through like a little pod thing. And this kind of reminds me of the Blob a little.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Little holes and shit. And then he gets like inside of a dog, so he can follow Eddie all the way to Drake's facility.
Yeah, and then basically we get this funny scene where Drake's men end up, because Drake can't get any information out of him due to him not having the symbiote.
Well, we also left out something big. While all this has been going on since we started talking about it, we have Riot jumping from around the world inside people.
Yeah.
Eventually goes through a couple people, and then inside this little girl who is on her way to San Francisco. I guess the symbiote kind of knows that all his other family members are in San Francisco, so he needs to fly there. So he goes in this girl who had a plane ticket, goes over there only to... And this is where the editing really just came... This is where the story and the editing and a lot of the issues start for me. There's a scene where, like, that part with the girl happens, and then, like, really just nothing really goes on about that for a while. And then Carlton Drake is like in his facility, and suddenly this girl just walks in.
Out of nowhere. Like, there was like no leeway into it.
There was no leeway building up to getting there. And then that was Riot that was in her, and Riot went inside Carlton Drake. If you guys remember the trailer, which by the way is spoiled if you really look the picture, the part where the trailer where they're pulling each other, the symbiotes are fighting. They actually somebody circled it about 2 weeks ago, so this is why I knew. Circled Carlton Drake's face.
Well, I kind of knew that, because when I saw the trailer, I knew his face was on there, because it's pretty obvious that he's the villain.
So the villain's going to take a villain thing, and then he becomes Riot. And this is when they have Tom Hardy, and he pretty much shows him as being a symbiote, too.
Yeah, and then it all leads to this after that, basically, because Carlton Drake can't use Eddie himself because he needs the actual symbiote, that he ends up leading his men outside to kill him and stuff. And that's when we get this funny scene where Michelle Williams all of a sudden shows up in like this Venom suit, and she's got like breasts that are showing Venom
the dog. Oh, I did mention that the dog had the symbiote for a little bit to follow them to the facility. However, he knew he wouldn't be able to get there, so as that little pup. So when he turns around, he sees Michelle Williams' character, and you're led to believe he's going to get her.
Yeah,
for a little bit.
And we see that Michelle Williams they actually get away with this part where it actually shows. It shows Michelle Williams as Venom, like, bite this dude's fucking head off. And they show the after effect because it shows the dude, it's in the shadows, but you can see the person actually getting their heads, gone.
Yeah, gone and stuff. And, she has that whole, like, where they make her look like Catwoman. Yeah. Where it shows the body length that she's a female and stuff.
Yeah, and then we get the scene where she's, like, Venom is, like, making out with Tom Hardy, which, that was a meme that somebody put on Facebook that I seen. Now, and when you watch it, it actually makes sense because that's actually Michelle Williams the whole time.
Yeah, and then Venom uses that so he can get back into Eddie Brock, and pretty much reveals Eddie Brock that he's he loves Eddie Brock, and why he wants to be inside him is because in his planet he is like Eddie Brock.
Yeah,
he's the black sheep. No one likes him. They push him aside.
Yeah, which I actually really enjoyed.
I kind of now at first I had the issue, but I guess I could buy it. I guess the timing is what my problem was. It wasn't that. I do like that. It's the fact that we didn't have no middle ground for them to really get to know each other. The
bonding.
So the writing was the problem of them bonding. There was hardly any bonding. It just went from that to I really care for you, Eddie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, just came abruptly, because if you guys don't, I don't know if you noticed this, but whenever it gets to around this scene, this is where the movie rushes to the fucking
It does.
end.
It fucking rushes to its climax. Because right really after fast. That, we already see Riot getting ready to have the shuttle go up to basically do more of the get more of the symbiotes
and bring them
down to Earth. And it literally went from that scene earlier all the way back to them already seeing that Riot is in full gear, and he kills all the people inside the launch station.
It goes from that to the fucking final battle.
Yeah, where Venom already sees that he's like trying to get away and stuff.
Yeah, and this is around the time mark where I think that it felt like there's the 40 minutes right there build up. It's gone. That's what they did, because there was there was kind of like your beginning, your build up, your middle, and then you have that downward spiral where some shit just goes wrong and you're just depressed.
Yeah,
that was probably like that tiny little bit, and it was like it went from middle to climax. I'm like, God damn.
Yeah, that jump.
That's why
really
I'm
weird.
saying the second half is the issue, though. I absolutely thought the first half. What I've seen in the first half, I was like, oh my God, why is this movie hated? I'm really liking it.
And then you can see as it goes. Yeah.
The second half, I can see where the problem is, even though I still think people are tearing it up too bad.
Yeah. But anyway, it all leads to our final climax, which I was a little disappointed with, because this fight scene they build up to, like in the trailers, it's cool at first, but it lasts for a couple fucking minutes.
It is really just a couple minutes, and it takes away a lot of the... he stabs Tom Hardy, but I mean, they're trying to get a reaction out of you, but I mean, there's nothing going to come from that.
But also, it's just the fact that they rush Riot so much, like, you don't even get much out of it. Because once he's in full gear, he's only on screen for just a little bit of time.
He's a big deal, too, man.
Yeah.
He gets like maybe 10 minutes in this film, if he's lucky.
Yeah.
I think I'm pushing it. Because when that fight scene is only like a couple minutes long, and then he goes up into the spaceship, and then Venom suddenly comes and says, kills Riot by blowing the spaceship up, and then pretty much like when Eddie's falling down to the ocean, he pretty much told Eddie, goodbye, Eddie, because fire supposedly kills Venom too. Only for the next scene that Venom is in Eddie. I'm like,
yeah, because
what was the point of that?
Yeah, it really had
doing
no purpose.
I guess I was trying to get an emotional factor, like, goodbye, Eddie, and all that stuff. But there was really no need to do that.
Well, because it felt rushed too.
Yeah, it really didn't need to do that at all.
Yeah,
it don't need to just be like, goodbye, Eddie, even though you're not attempting to get any emotion out of anybody. We already knew that was a useless scene, because this is going to be. He's gonna be Venom for quite a while.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So it's like,
and we had that most famous scene in the trailer after this, where basically he's still not back with Michelle Williams, but they've pretty much reconciled afterwards
as friends. Yeah.
And so he goes on his daily life, and then he sees, because there's a running thing where earlier in the film he goes inside this store where this clerk gets robbed by this guy. Well, it comes back to this guy coming back to the store again to rob, and this is the scene that everyone's been quoted in the trailer, where he basically, because now that Venom is pretty much a part of Eddie Brock, he's telling him that he needs to be fighting just the bad guys.
And there's a thing I noticed is pretty cool that we never mentioned, was I like the fact that, like, Venom, even though they're really concealed as friends, there always leaves you hope that, and this will lead into Spider-Man, when actually Eddie Brock becomes pure evil, that Venom will turn eventually. He's just using him for right now. But I do like the thing that Venom says, like, pretty much explains when they're inside a human body, they got to eat constantly. They're hungry all the time. If they don't, they'll start eating your insides and kill you. Yeah.
So that is actually pretty cool that, he's trying to teach them those things. And
he's like, all right, we're going to be team. You do this for me, we're going to start killing bad people, and I'll let you eat.
And you don't kill the good people.
And he's like, okay. And then basically he's like, then I thought it was a pretty genuine kind of like level-headed, where they walk into the store.
Before that, though, we forgot to mention this. There's actually I mean, I kind of figured they would do this because he's part of he's the guy who invented the character in the comics.
Yeah.
They walk right by Stan Lee.
Yeah.
And Stan Lee has a cameo on this too, which was funny. He's like, who is that guy? I know that guy. And then he basically, past that, he was...
Venom goes,
he's like,
who's that?
Who's that little dog?
No, he looked at Stan Lee and goes, who's that guy? And he goes, and then he looks at the dog and he's like,
can we have that? Can I eat him? And then we get to the most famous scene from the trailer where he goes to the store and we see the robber come in to try to rob the clerk. And we get the scene where Venom turns into his form and he says, "You will be this armless, legless thing, like a turd in the wind,
rolling like a
turd in the wind."
Yeah, and then you know, and he goes, "Who are you?" And then he does the Venom thing. You think he's just gonna bite him at first, and then he goes, lets him get ready to go, and he goes, "Oh wait."
On second thought,
yeah, and fucking eats him. That Asian girl's like,
he's like, "What?" And then he's like, "Oh, I got some kind of pancreas or parasite."
Yeah,
and then he ends up leaving, and then he tells William, he's like, "Okay, well, what do we do now?" He's like, "We can do whatever we want."
Yeah,
yeah,
and it leads into the credit scenes,
which I'll admit, I've kind of grown on that song now because I actually kind of like that Eminem song they did.
Yeah,
it's not too bad. It
works with the film. I'm not much of an Eminem fan, but it works well with the film, I guess.
And then we get to probably a really cool scene later where it's the middle credits, because there's actually two post-credit scene. We get the mid credits where it shows Eddie Brock is basically back at work and going to interview this serial killer at this prison in San Quentin, and guess who shows up? Cletus Cassidy from the comics, and he's played by Woody Harrelson.
And basically they do a heavy red theme, which I liked because it's Carnage's calling card. It's his colors.
Yeah.
And he actually says, "When I get out of here, I'm gonna cause carnage."
Yeah.
And then the credits is over. And basically, I'm a 50-50 on here. I do wish we never see a Carnage red symbiote anywhere. Two, we don't know if he got a hold of the symbiote to be that more like, you know, I'm a badass and I know I'm gonna get to do something cool.
Yeah,
because if he's a symbiote, especially Carnage of all people, I don't see him still being in prison. Well, Carnage is like Thanos. You ain't gonna keep that motherfucker.
Well, I think what they're doing is they're probably leading that up to probably another film where he comes across the symbiote. He's probably just saying that he's gonna cause carnage, and then basically the symbiote knows that he likes to cause carnage, so he calls him Carnage.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, because really he can't just already have the symbiote Carnage. It can't go with that route because he
wouldn't be in fucking prison. Yeah,
exactly.
So he probably doesn't have the symbiote.
I guess without the explanation of what's going on as of now, it can leave kind of a confused situation. And then we get to the second one at the end of the credits, which really isn't actually anything to do with the movie. It's actually free scenes from Spider-Man Into the Verse, which comes out this Christmas.
Yeah, Into the Universe, which basically comes out in December. Which it's all about Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And this one, it was just basically a scene that shows that there's more there. It basically shows that Miles goes to Peter Parker's grave and because he thinks he's dead. That's what I thought. I was like, Peter's dead? And then we discover that Peter Parker's actually alive. And
but he's like, it looks like he's like pretty much at the end of his ropes where he's like kind of like a bum.
Yeah, and then they basically go on an adventure together, and it makes me really wonder, like, okay, I know this is supposed to be a promotion for Into the Universe, but wouldn't it be kind of cool if this was kind of a weird tie-in, like they kind of crossed over somehow?
Yeah, well, here's the thing with the Into the Universe. It actually lets us know that they're doing time travel.
Okay, so maybe
in other dimensions.
So it makes because the title cards say "Meanwhile in Another Universe," so it's like, okay, maybe this probably could tie in somehow, like in the future.
Maybe they're building Miles Morris or something to where like they build him in the real life universe and stuff, where he's got experience instead of a backstory. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know, because this is really like, so far for what I know, it's just its own story.
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. But
anyway,
overall, like we said, like the movie, it does have its flaws, but I really was entertained by it to the point where I didn't. I still got into it a lot.
I see it like this. Was I entertained really well? Yeah, more than I thought it would be. Entertained on a story. Well, it depends. The first half, yeah. That second, mainly the climaxy part, the last quarter of it, not so great.
Yeah, because especially with the way
the story can be messy. Yeah.
Yes,
and it's got a bad fucking editing problem. Oh my god, the jumpy scenes. I don't know why they had to gut it like that. Why do movies do this, man?
If it's like you were saying, I hope that there is at least some benefit of a doubt that if they do a sequel, they need to do it R-rated, because Tom Hardy's already said he would love to do a sequel R-rated. And look, we could all understand. We could all pretty much. It's common sense. If you're going to make a movie with Carnage, you have to make that shit R-rated.
And they should have just went with this with R-rated too. They would have done more, and it probably would have made Riot more useful, because I heard a lot of it was Riot they had to cut out because it was so gruesome.
Well, and also other story factors
but they say Riot does some pretty gruesome shit.
That's what I'm saying.
Out.
This is a film I actually want to see a longer cut, just to kind of see like what else we could have got. Now, with that being said, from what we've seen of it, I still like the movie overall, but I will say the movie that we could have got probably would have been a lot better.
Oh yeah, like I'm glad you were able to capture the entertainment department, but I just felt like you didn't capture the actual full what you should have done.
Yeah.
The story should have been way better than what we got. And you never, ever... Why do you keep making the mistakes of making the fucking cool villain that is actually a big deal always at 5 fucking minutes? It's always in a Spider-Man type fucking movies.
Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and now this. They've done that 3 times now.
3 times. You guys fucking make the villain come in for only 5 fucking minutes. You did it with Green Goblin in fucking Amazing Spider-Man 2. Then you did it with Venom in the 3rd fucking movie.
Well, technically you also do it with Rhino in Amazing Spider-Man 2 as well. So that's 4 times.
Yeah, 4
that's
fucking
4
times.
Villains you've done.
I don't understand why this is the only one that does that.
Yeah, it's weird. But overall, like, that's pretty much our final thoughts. I mean, like we said, I still give it kind of a very, very, very low compelling grade on the Film Phreeks meter.
And I give it a extremely high average Joe in the Film Phreeks meter.
Fair enough. And for those of you who have also seen Venom, let us know in the comments below of what you thought about it. And if you have any other... if you like what we see here, you can feel free to like and subscribe to our channel and check out more of our other reviews here in our website at filmphreeks.com. And we'll be seeing you in our next review. We'll see you later.
Later.